I'm basically going to be going into there to prise these seals off, and I don't want anything sharp to scratch the inside of the lowers where these seals sit. Okay, they do come out actually without too much force, he says, so you tend to find that so I've got the where are we? There we go. The seal, what we call the wiper seal or the dust seal, dust wiper seal, I've now removed that from the lowers. That just pops out nice and clean. The foam ring that's beneath that comes out as well. I'm discarding them on this service. If you're going to reuse these seals, I'd suggest not to remove them. You probably need to remove, at the very minimum, I'll put this on the floor and just get the seal out. At the very minimum, you're going to need to remove the foam rings because they do capture a lot of crap in there. So get rid of your foam rings. But you can just if it's not, you know, if you're doing this every 6 months, I'd only suggest changing the actual wiper seals probably every 12 months anyway. But they do stretch and get a little bit baggy over a period of time, and that's when you're going to get water and dirt ingress into your fork. Now once you've got your seals out, it's a bit dirty these forks, but you don't want any. If you clean your fork first, these aren't too bad, but it just stops any dirt ingress into your fork if you start off with them pretty clean. And then this is where my little contraption, so I give them a good clean inside there. I don't bother, to be honest with you, spraying any alcohol stuff inside there because you're never going to get every last little bit of fluid that's in there out, get the most of it out. But if you start spraying alcohol, it's just mixing with the fluid that's in there, and you're getting a bit of emulsified nasty solution. So yeah, just give them a good clean out. Now it's a good time to, if you've got a bit of a torch there, you can just inspect these. Inside there are some, you can just see some, you see the, like this creamy colour, it's a bushing, and there's one a little bit further inside, so it's those two sets of bushings that actually engage with your upper legs, and the internal oil that's inside those lower legs is the stuff that keeps those bushings lubricated. So that's why, you know, that's one of the reasons why we do this lower leg service. I'm just going to give these uppers a little bit more of a spray. I'm going to spray the towel with a bit of alcohol. I'm just going to make sure that that upper bushing and the little shelf, little ledge and everything where my seals sit is all nice and clean. Just give that a clean at the bottom because that's where your oil's been dripping out of there when you've got the lowers to start with. Don't worry about any excess oil just at the minute and stuff on the outside of the box. When you put everything back together, you give it a good spray down and a clean at the end of the service. Right, so we'll just put those lowers to one side. A little vessel to hold suspension fluid in. Now you're going to need about anything up to sort of 50 or so millilitres of this suspension fluid to suck up with your syringe to inject back into the lower legs just at a later stage before we put the forks back together. So just use that vessel. Now this seal kit, this is a Fox 34 specific seal kit. Now I've got the SKF seal kit here, just a little bit more blingy with the green, so they look a little bit different to the black ones, but the Fox SKF seals are made by the same company. Same moulds, just a different colour dye, I would say, just to make the seals. Their Fox seals, Fox factory seals are black, but SKF do their own colour is like a green colour. So you've got two dust wiper seals, you get two foam rings, dip your foam rings, or don't dip them, just drop those into the suspension fluid. I've got a little pair of tweezers here, so duff them in your suspension. Just leave, you can leave them in there as long as you want, actually, so you need them. Put them in that. So they'll soak up a little bit of suspension fluid whilst they're in there. You also get, well, with these particular SKF kits, you get two, for some reason you get two sets of crush, you get two bigger crush washers and two smaller crush washers. You only need one of each, so you can keep a couple as spares. Right, once you've soaked your foam rings, put the foam rings in first, actually. So put your foam rings in your suspension oil. So oil soaked foam ring in. There's like a little shelf. You can't mess that up. There's a little shelf on all the different forks. So you just pop that foam ring onto there, nice and gently. Don't be scratching anything with any tools. Don't worry about any excess oil dripping down there. That's all good. We want plenty of oil inside the lowers anyway. I just put my oil to one side so I don't knock it over and spill oil everywhere. Right, seal driver. You need to put your seals in now. Remove there's what's called an energizer ring. A little, or an energizer spring on top of the fork seal. There's one inside the fork seal as well. Leave that in there, you don't need to touch that. Just remove the rings, the energizer springs, should I say, off both the seals. Take them off, because when you put your seal onto your driver, you'll disrupt the energizer spring when that goes on there, because it sort of sits on top of it. Okay. So you've got your foam ring in, you're soaked, important to soak it with oil. Don't worry about any oil around the outside there, that'll just help sit this seal in place. Nylon side of the hammer or a rubber mallet. Let's just zoom out a bit. Okay, nice and gently. Bit at a time. If they're going off a bit skew whiffy, these seal drivers should help keep it nice and square anyway. But they don't have a flange on a lot of the Fox forks, so just tap it down until it's nice and level. Not too far. Okay. So the top of the seal, just level with the top of the lowers there. If you're not careful, you can drive it a little bit too far. If you do drive it too far, just try and gently pry it back up again and take it out and try again. It is worth investing in one of these tools because you've got this shaft on it that sits inside there and just helps keep it nice and square. If you try and tap these in without a seal driver, you shouldn't actually be tapping directly onto the seal, because they're quite a hard material, the actual PTFE sort of impregnated bits on top of, and if you can warp it, so you know, just be careful. I would recommend, they're about 12 quid on Amazon, and you'll use them again and again and again. Now what I do now as well, is, so these little energizer rings, I don't put them back on just yet because I tend to find that if you put them on and then you try and put the lower legs back onto the uppers, so just check they're all nice and level. Okay, just before you forget now, you don't want to forget to put these energizer rings on. Just get your forks, yeah, invert them up past the horizontal again, yeah. Don't need to grease these or anything, but just get your sag ring, just a little bit of suspension grease. Just put your sag ring back on. Goes on the air side on Fox forks and newer RockShox forks. Damper side on the older RockShox forks. I put the energizer rings on to the uppers. They're on there, then you can't forget to put them back on. So if you put these lower legs back on and you've forgotten to do that, you're going to have to drop the lower legs again to put your energizer rings back on. Okay. Right. This is where we get our Shram Butter, Buzzy Slick Honey, RSP Slick Kick, whatever suspension grease you like to use, and they're like a double-edged seal, these dust seals, so it's like got a scalloped out hollow middle. Fill that middle with grease. You can't put too much grease on, so it doesn't matter if it goes inside your lower legs. Suspension grease is suspension oil soluble, so that your oil will just make that dissolve away anyway inside the lower legs. So fill that cavity completely with suspension grease, both seals. Okay. Now on the old Fox forks, they used to use Fox Float fluid as a means of sort of a suspension grease. It's a thicker suspension oil, but they tend to use Buzzy Slick Honey or similar grease now. Okay, so whack a load of that into the seals. Don't worry about getting grease all over the place. We all do it. You're going to clean everything up later on. Okay. Right. So double check time. We've cleaned the forks, we've cleaned the upper legs of the forks, we've cleaned the shafts, check for damage, not doing any other servicing on this lower leg service, so as long as they're nice and clear and damage free. Orientate the fork the way so that you know that that's facing forwards of the bike, so that's the front of the fork. And at least you know when you're putting these lower legs back on, you're putting them on the right way. What I tend to do now is I'll turn these so the fork is facing away from me. So it's going to be facing away from me as if I'm riding in that direction, okay? Because when I see these seals going on now, I can just see them both together better than when they're flat. Right, so I've put new foam rings in, I've put new dust seals on, I've cleaned the upper legs, I've cleaned inside the lower legs. That's basically it for your lower leg service. Dead simple, dead quick. I would even be doing it like twice as fast as this if I wasn't talking to the camera. So, you know, this is real time this as well, so it is dead quick. Right. Just the air spring shaft will be fully extended anyway because I've not removed any air from there, so that's pushed as far as it will go. You won't move that. The damper shaft, that can just be cycled backwards and forwards. So just make sure that's fully extended because when you push this onto there, that'll engage first into the bottom leg. But first of all, we need to get these on, and you've just got to be careful you don't turn the lip of the seals. Now this is why I've removed the energizer rings, because when you're doing this, it can sometimes just disrupt the energizer ring, and if you put the energizer rings on first to put on there afterwards, you can't do any damage. Right, just put them on so that the seals engage, and you'll see that the shaft of the damper